different in a garden than it does when you're at work or when you're doing other things. It seems to be the same when you're in the wilderness too. That there's a different sense of time that somehow flows through nature. It's also, from my point of view, I see a different sense of connectivity. I see a different sense of connectedness when I'm in nature, when I'm out in my garden. I never feel rejected when I'm out in nature in the wilderness or when I'm in my own garden. It seems like nature will always open its arms to me, and that I'm a perfect thing when I'm dealing with a customer, when I'm dealing with social evaluations, if I'm dealing with religions, or I'm dealing with any human institution. There's always the chance that I may not be allowed in. You won't be the person who got picked to play soccer, because you're the lousy soccer player. You're not going to be the guy that made the right score in the class to be able to move forward, or one thing or another. That somebody else gets a promotion in the workplace. Sometimes it's you, But definitely, whenever we're in human institutions, when we're in society, it seems like time flows faster, and it also seems like we're not as well accepted as when we're in nature. I think these are two of the reasons that I was drawn into the garden to begin with. I enjoyed the feeling that nature would wrap its arms around me, embrace me, and say, it's one of us. He's come home. I always feel that way if I'm out in a redwood forest, or even if I'm standing in my own apple orchards, or I'm just out front communing with my orange tree. I always feel a sense of love emanating from the oranges in my garden. I mean, most of us love juicy, ripe oranges, right? It's hard not to feel wonderful next to the things like a ripe orange tree. And the longer I stay alive and the more technology changes around me, the more I notice that we tend to run at our machine times in society. This is not true in nature. Nature has its own pulse. I mean, time is, by its nature, is a relative situation. Time is not a fixed thing. Those of you who subscribe to Einstein's theory of relativity, that time and space are interlocked, and that mass has an effect on time. So the larger an object is, the more it warps space, and then the more it warps the fabric of time too, because they're interconnected with space. And so time moves slower near a deep gravity well, but almost stands still next to a black hole, for instance. Time also moves slower the faster you go. As you approach the speed of light, time gets close to slowing down. Now these are physical, gravitational, and properties of light and so on, but there's also the subjective time of living. And for a human being, we really live in multiple different time streams throughout our lives, or at different periods. As a child, it seems like everything takes way too long. And it's true, it takes quite a while to grow up. You got a lot of future ahead of you. As an adult, or even worse, as an old adult, time really seems like it's just running out. There just isn't as much of it as you would like to see. And that's true too. I'm a short timer here. Pretty soon the planet's going to belong to all the rest of you younger kids, and you're going to have to worry about what we're going to do with the economy, the environment, and so on. So I don't have that much time left here. So the feeling is actually accurate. It's an accurate assessment. I'm sure if you've ever been in an emergency situation where suddenly your car got run off the road or something like that, time seems like it stands still. The brain floods with all sorts of interesting chemicals that put us into a state where it seems like we can just move so fast and everything else slows down. The state is real. I mean, I've witnessed it myself in my own life several times, is that I was able to do things that were considered humanly impossible because of this alteration of the perception of time. I once sidestepped a broken chainsaw blade that came off of a saw I was using, and it stood up. It looked like a cobra being charmed by a snake charmer, and it was moving from my perspective so slow that when it left the saw, I was able to step to the side and allow the blade to fly past my head. I still don't know how that's exactly possible, but let's just say that there was a different perception of time at that particular moment. Perception of time in the garden is usually the pulse of organic time, which is probably closer to the true sense of time, which is that sense of motion that was created by the Big Bang when everything started projecting outward at the beginning of the universe. There was this flow that was created. It's that flow that gives us our sense of linear time, is that things are moving in a particular direction from past to present to future and so on. And that's how we get that sense, because actually time isn't at all that way, and nor is it a fixed commodity. Again, it is variable. But we sense that time. That's the flow time of nature. It's the time that the bear and the timber wolf and the eagle live in, you know. It's the time that my apple trees turn on. This ability to make catharsis with long-lived plants, for instance, like trees. I enjoy bonding with these long-lived, almost eternal creatures like, 2,000-year-old redwoods and bristlecone pines that were trees when, Christ was walking the earth and so on. By being around organisms like that, they seem to slow my own time sense down, because they move in real long, slow timelines. And when I connect with them, I kind of share that timeline just a bit. I'm able to indulge in it. I have found that people who feel they have the time to plant trees usually live longer. The longest lived people I've ever known were still planting trees well past 90 years of age. I recall one gentleman, Hank Klaproth, his neighbors would go, "Hank, you're mad. Why are you still planting black walnut seeds? You're 90 years old. You're never going to see anything come from it." And I guess for Hank it didn't matter, It just wasn't the important issue that he'd ever see the trees. He just wanted to plant them. And I think I learned that from Hank. Just do it, Don't even worry about it. And when you release yourself from our artificial time, you're able to enter a time that is shared by most living organisms here in the environment. It's a better place to be, because man time, or human time, is very much driven by the machine. As I said earlier, when I was born, the Ford Flathead V8 and the Indian motorcycle, for instance, were two of the faster things on land. Jet aircraft had hardly been developed. Most things were prop plane. So a good-sized, powerful prop aircraft was one of the fastest things we had around. The Germans had already created rockets as a weapon of war, but we hadn't started to, break the atmosphere or the sound barrier, for that matter. And so things moved a lot slower. We were driven at the speed of the Ford Flathead or the Indian motorcycle. Now we've entered a digital age where things move incredibly fast. And people have also moved into this area. The term multitasking, for instance, did not exist when I was a boy. That was referred to as doing too many damn things at once, okay? Focus, it's called focus, which is something that I still do when I'm working with plants. It's one of the reasons I do it. And when I work with customers, for instance, that are over here or over there, or what about this problem, what about that? Take it easy there, lady. Let me concentrate on what I'm working on here, because I need to focus if this is going to be done right, and I have to have the time, at least the feeling that I have the time to really do it properly. And that disconnection, I think, from what's natural time into what is our artificial or machine time, disconnection is the source, I think, of the problem that we experience in our world today. A lot of people don't feel like they're actually part of the environment. For instance, we talk about saving the environment, saving the planet, and so on, Well, actually, anytime we're talking about that, trust me, the planet's going to take care of itself. No matter what people do, it would be pretty far-fetched for me to imagine that we could bung this Earth up so bad that we could actually completely destroy the Earth. That's not likely. Earth goes through purgings from meteorite showers, comet impacts, ice ages, volcanic winters and so on. There's been all kinds of episodes in the past that nearly wiped out the face of the planet, and it keeps coming back around in different shapes and sizes, colors and flavors. Okay, doesn't seem to go away. Life is extremely tenacious. What we're really saying is, we're going to knock all the humans off the face of the planet. Anytime we talk about saving the Earth, we're not really talking about saving the Earth. That's a euphemism for let's save our own ass, because if we don't take care of man, nobody else is. And so we're basically our own worst enemy when it comes to that. If anything at all happens here with environmental degradation and poor judgment, lack of sustainability, it's going to mean that human beings will probably get lost from the food chain. The Earth, it'll keep running. And so we often have this disconnection sense that we're not actually part of what we come from. It's a false sense. Okay, there's a lot of reasons maybe how it got that way. I won't even bother here as to why we might have gotten in this situation, but so many of us are disconnected. We seek connections. We seek connections through religion, for instance. That's one place that people try to find a connection to something, so they feel they belong. We seek connections through relationships. We seek connections through families. We can feel connected in families for a while. All this is fine and dandy, but the truth of the matter is we're actually totally interconnected with everything else in the whole universe. All right, everything that makes up my body, me, I am mostly nothing, okay, because an atom is basically almost nothing. It's very little of anything in any of the energy spheres that make me up, and I've got, I believe, about 66 billion neutrinos in a square centimeter of skin every second that are being produced by the sun and flowing right through me and going out the other side, all right? And so I'm that transparent when it comes to certain particles, at least. I'm not even here. But I have consciousness, and the bits of me that are actually here are parts of stars. The calcium in my bones came from stars. The metal in my wristwatch over here, everything in my body that's an element, for instance, was all formed in the furnaces of stars. The stars go supernova when they reach the iron stage. They disseminate the heavy materials out through the rest of the universe in this explosive plume, which then coalesces somewhere else, in this case here on Earth. And so if you thought gold was made here on Earth, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It's fired in the supernova of a star that died. So is everything else that you see. There is no barrier 20 miles out there. No fence line. The Republicans can put up a fence line on the Mexican border if they want to try to keep out, illegal immigrants. That's a human thing. But when it comes to the reality of the universe, what's really going on here, everything is flowing in and out of everything else all the time. There is no lack of connection. Lack of connection is only in the way we think. So it's a human mindset. It's almost a mental illness, because in our culture we seek connection through everything, whether it be more goods, more money. We're always looking for something to attach ourselves to help fill emptiness. It sort of runs with the nature of a capitalistic society, I guess. I don't know. I don't think tribal societies experience this nearly as much. But of course their connection to the truth of nature was also probably much stronger. The cell phone. The cell phone is a great example of how we are disconnected. To me, it's extraordinary. We had the telephone when I was a kid. It had a wire on it and all. We were taught how to use it and so forth. And I figure it's been a pretty good tool. I like my telephone. It's useful for me. On the other hand, when cell phones started to come around, I carried one for the first 5-10 years, I guess, of the cell phone industry. I had the cell phone. Well, the economy got tough. I had to look at what I was spending on things. And so one of the things that I axed along the line was the bill for the cell phone, because it could get extraordinarily expensive. And I decided I'd have other options for how I was going to be able to communicate that were a lot cheaper than paying that monthly bill. Well, when I got rid of the cell phone, about the same time that everybody was taking up the smartphone, and so the smartphone caught on like wildfire. All right, well, they're totally interconnected via the cell towers and satellite signals through the internet, so that the smartphone now is like a tiny computer being carried with everybody all the time. I find friends of mine will ask me, "How can you get by without a cell phone?" It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I get by the same way I always got by. If I need to make a phone call, I go make a phone call. Besides, all you guys got cell phones. If I need to make a call, I'll just say, "Hey, give me your cell phone." And so I don't worry too much about any of that. But I began to realize that it was so compulsive, that this connectivity to the cell phone, for people, it was like there was something there in society waiting to be filled by this appliance. That there was a lack, there was a need. And when I looked at it deep enough, what I realized is that people mostly feel disconnected, because the cell phone has become totally compulsive, especially the texting thing. I mean, I'm afraid to drive down the street here in California because some yo-yo is going to be standing there texting, staring at his screen, and step off the curb in front of my car. I mean, I get 8-year-old kids on bicycles trying to text, it's scary. It really is. I mean, they're not supposed to use it in a car on the freeway, yet they are all the time. It's to the point where it's neurotic, and there's a sickness. They can't put them down. They can't get away from them. And for things to have caught on that quickly and to run that deep in society, where people are willing to break the laws and willing to compromise their own safety to use these things, there's got to be a deep, dark reason. There's got to be a reason why it went so quick. And my suggestion is it's our lack of connectivity, where we just don't feel that we're connected to anything, and that cell phone is a technological fix. When I go out to work with plants in the garden, I don't carry a cell phone, okay? I refuse to carry a cell phone. And if there's anybody out there working with me, assistants and so on, first thing I want them to do, turn the cell phone off. Be in the space, be present now. I mean, my goodness, almost every spiritual tradition on earth will tell you that everything that happens right here now. It's not somewhere else. The cell phone is a natural born piece of technology that throws us out of the present moment. Right now I'm speaking to a camera, but I'm actually speaking directly to you. And if I had a cell phone, it would be turned off, because I need to take the time and the concentration and the energy to do this right. And I can't do it right when there's a distraction. If I'm in the wilderness, or if I'm in my own garden, it's that connected nature where the nature will embrace me, will take me in, allow me to become part of everything else there is, and truly feel that. I think that, and the sense of an organic time rather than illusionary time, is why we get this sense when we walk into beautiful gardens, why we get the sense when we walk in a redwood forest, or if we're in a fantastic desert landscape, or wherever it might be, even on a coral reef, why for a while everything just seems right. And it isn't until we get back into the world of humans and we start traveling at human speed and we start feeling human ways that we lose the sense. Yet it's always still there. There's always the organic time. There's always the connectivity. But if you can't find it while you're on the freeway or while you're at the office, then a good suggestion would be get out there in the garden and see if you can find it out there. For most of us, it's a little easier out in the garden. Okay? So, time and connection, that's what it's all about. Thanks for listening.